Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast, and still basking in the glow of that magnificent 4-0 victory at Villa Park. I thought I'd bring Jo Dudderidge, musician, Spurs season ticket holder, and legend to talk about it. I wanted to talk to someone else about it. I gave you my review yesterday, but I wanted to talk to somebody else who hopefully is feeling as positive as I am. So how are you, Joe, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I have to say, I definitely consume more pints of Guinness when Tottenham win. So this was quite a heavy weekend because of the result.
And actually, a lot of your family are Spurs fans as well. So were you Mother's Daying it and watching it with the fam?
Yeah, well, I sort of made the mistake of trying to build the day around Spurs, but then didn't quite give myself enough time. So I ended up missing the start of the second half whilst traveling over across London to get to a lunch with my mum. And but I managed to get the whole of the first half, and then from about the 70th minute, I think McGinn had just been sent off. Maybe the 65th, I arrived or
Oh my
something and
God, you missed
watched.
you missed the most important bit. You missed the
Yeah,
two
well,
goals and Mickey Van de Ven's injury.
I know. I've obviously rewatched it all, so I've caught up. But yeah, it
Amazing.
was needed an extra half an hour for sure.
Well, before we get into it, guys, if you didn't see Joe on last week's show, make sure you check out his music. It's really amazing. He was in a band called The Traveling Band, and I think they sometimes still gig as well, but also he's got a solo project called Later Youth. All that information will be in the description box. Have I got that right, Joe?
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so getting into it, let's start with that first half then. Were you surprised to see that Aston Villa seemed to be playing it a bit more coy than they have been done this season, kind of a five at the back? And in that first half, we had like 69% of the possession, and although they made a few transitional chances, it really felt to me like we were in control.
Yeah, I thought it was strange because Villa have been doing so well against even, the top teams in the league, playing the way they have been playing. They're so dangerous on the break, but they obviously felt that our tactics made them exposed playing a higher line possibly. So they ended up sort of with like five at the back at times, which was just a bit strange. So yeah, I thought that played into our hands. There was also a lot of space in midfield for us to play within to
Yeah.
the lines because they had that extra defender that was dropping in. And usually where there might be some, harder for players like Madison's to thrive in those more classic 10 positions. I thought there were places for our players to go into those spaces and attack Villa.
Yeah, it just felt to me like Villa were kind of caught between two stools, which was like playing
Mm.
five at the back, but not doing it in that very narrow kind of box midfield that, say, Crystal Palace did and Brentford did against us that really suffocated us. But then also not kind of playing, like you said, that kind of high line front footed stuff that they've really suffocated like Man City and Arsenal when they beat them at Villa Park. So it felt almost to me like when I was watching it, I think I mentioned it at the time while I was watching it, it felt like they'd kind of slipped into kind of Conte ball. And it was such a relief to see that happening to somebody else rather than us, as we've been used to.
Yeah, it was quite ugly, really, and I did not felt sorry for Ollie Watkins and Bailey up front, but it just ended up, having these balls going over the top, and it was apart from that moment where Romero played that little pokey
Header.
pass that nearly, well, the one that nearly let them in, and then he cleared it up afterwards,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was great defending. But yeah, I was quite amazed how untroubled Mickey and Romero were with taking care of what are two of the most dangerous attackers in the league. So. Yeah, I came out of the whole game just feeling pretty over the moon that we had battered our top four rival in their own backyard. I just thought it was a good day.
Is that, yeah, amazing day and a perfect day to be on all the Guinnesses by the sound of it. But do you think there's any element of, obviously we've got players within that squad, and almost as a club as well, we have experienced the top four run-ins before and obviously playing in the Champions League. Whereas Villa, this is, as John McGinn said in the run-up to the game, this was the biggest league game in their recent club history. Did you get the sense there was any element of freezing about them?
Well, I think the manager was the first one to freeze by really, I know we've covered it, but by not sticking to the tactics, you could see their interplay wasn't smooth in the midfield area, and I think most Premier League games are won in the midfield area. In the modern day, if you get that wrong and that battle's won, you're usually going to come on top in the game. So you could see that they were struggling just to find each other in that side of the pitch. often they were struggling trying to play out from the back, and that's where a lot of our goals came from, where we were, we pounced on them, not being able to find passes in that area of the pitch. So, yeah, I don't know whether their mentality was. I think McGinn sounds like he wound himself up in the week, and by the time he got to the day and it was all going wrong for him, it was a nightmare for him. And he's a funny player again, because I imagine if he's on your team, you absolutely love him, but if he's not, then yeah, the opposite is true, I think.
Yeah, he's been linked with us a few times actually. I do really rate him. He's kind of a late bloomer. I do really rate him on the
Mm,
ball. And actually, I think I was saying, just in terms of what you were just talking about, I was saying during the game that we've got a few players like who, if they were on the opposition team, you'd hate them, but actually you love having them on your team. Like Romero is obviously the obvious one, but also James Maddison is such a wind-up merchant. And I remember
yeah,
when he was at Leicester, I remember being, oh God, not only does
hated
he
him.
kind of always score against us, but he's such a wind-up merchant. You mentioned earlier about those kind of long balls, and you were talking about how we were kind of pickpocketing them when they were trying to find passes. I really feel like all of that is a result of our incredible press. I feel like our press was more on point in this game than I've seen it since those first 10 games. And is it just overall, or do you think that game was overall just an example of how when we're facing the right opposition and the better opposition, actually, Ange ball is really dangerous for those teams to play against. And that's been kind of shown by our results against the teams above us this season, where we drew at the Emirates, we drew at the Etihad, we beat Aston Villa, and we beat away, and we beat Liverpool at home. So is it more suited, Ange ball, to those kind of games?
Yeah, possibly. I also wondered about Villa's pitch has always looked really big to me, and it should be just the television screens, but
Could be the
I do
camera
wonder
angle,
if
but yeah.
I do wonder if we thrive a bit more on slightly bigger pitches where you can kind of press the teams right into their 6 yard box, or like Sonny was like almost in the goalkeeper's face
It
at
was, yeah.
times. But I also thought Madison was slightly pressing differently. He seemed to be going further up the pitch than normal. He's also seems to be sprinting a lot better compared to when he first came back, obviously. So there's just a bit more energy in the press, and I think if we can keep everyone fit, and these players are going to be coming into form, and fitness and form at the right time, then hopefully we can keep that energy level up, because whilst all these other teams are getting knackered and we start playing the sides that really start needing to get 3 points on the board in each game, then I think the hope is that plays into our hands as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think a lot of people have been looking at those April fixtures with trepidation, but I'm actually looking at them like I think we're going to have a big, big say on that title race. And then also a part of me kind of sadly looks back again at that Chelsea game and thinks what could have been had we kept
Mm.
them fit. I mean, mentioning fitness, of course, Mickey van der Ven, hopefully, that it's not going to be too bad, but how good was he in that 50 minutes he played? I mean, he has got to the stage, Joe, where just like I did when we had Musa Dembele, whenever Musa Dembele had someone kind of trying to challenge him, I used to almost like turn away from the screen because it was so pointless. And Van der Ven's the same.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. I mean, his legs seem to be getting longer and longer every week as well. Yeah, he's brilliant. I mean, you do worry about his hamstrings, but maybe that was just a precautionary thing that he felt a tweak, and hopefully he'll be back. But I know it's that sort of commentators thing that they always say that, oh, one day someone's going to get injured from someone not doing putting
The
the
offside
offside
flag,
flag
yeah,
up. But that was actually one of those moments where that block was unbelievable.
it was.
At the back post, I think, was it Dina on the end of it or someone like that?
Yeah, I
And
can't
he
remember, but
just
it was
came. It
incredible.
was
Yeah,
insane. Yeah, he is an unbelievable player. But it was also a good opportunity to see the
Draghi.
Dragon come on, yeah, and do his thing. He looked a bit cumbersome on the ball at times, but I think compared to, you look at someone like Romero, who's just sort of seems to just like move across the savannah of our half like some sort of like majestic king. Yeah, Dragosin looked a little bit more nervy, but he'll get into it. But he's a unit as well, so
He
it's
is.
quite a different scenario to bringing on lovely Ben Davis. But we've got options now, which is important.
That's true. So Dragishin, I while watching the game, I thought exactly what you just said. However, I've watched back a few of those brilliant compilations that people stick together on like Twitter of all his touches in the game. And actually, there was one moment where Vicario really pinged it at him across under pressure, and it kind of bounced up, and Diaby nicked it away from him and then got to the byline. So that I think is a lot of why I thought, oh, maybe he looked a bit cumbersome. But every other time he had the ball, actually, he was really calm and he was playing some nice balls in between the lines. The one thing that I wonder we may lose a little bit on while he's in, assuming let's say Van der Ven's out this week, and then hopefully he'll be back after the international break. Dragusin is obviously far more comfortable on his right-hand side, so there were a few occasions where while Van der Ven would either pass it down the line on the left to Brennan Johnson in this case, because he was the left-sided forward, or sometimes what Van der Ven does is just shape to pass and then actually nick it past the defender, the attacker, and make that space. I think with Dragusin, we're going to lose a little bit of that because I think his instinct will be to come and bring it back onto his right. And that is the only thing where I would say, I think Dragusin is a much more comfortable fit defensively, but I wonder if at some point, if let's say we're losing to Fulham, whether he might bring Ben Davies on to open up that kind of balance on the left-hand side.
Yeah, or maybe you might see, like Maddison coming a lot deeper to pick up the ball straight off him, barely letting him make progressive passes. But I don't know, he was passing the ball forward. I think, like you say, there were just a couple of moments I was like, can't imagine Mickey doing that. There was one chip ball over, he played sort of across the defence that I think went out of play, and I was like, but you got to give the guy a chance. But he definitely he's definitely got a presence, which is really important, especially, we're getting criticised for, some of our defensive set plays and set pieces. And sorry, I've been watching too much NFL, obviously. So but yeah, but yeah, it's exciting to have someone come in and looks like they can actually head the ball away, maybe.
Like no shade to Big Dave Sanchez, because I once met him in a petrol station in North London. But I think we all feel a bit more comfortable. We all feel more comfortable that we have a player coming in now who Ange has actually picked to fit his style. And I actually think with Dragusin, it was almost like a perfect situation for him to come and have his first kind of elongated minutes, where we were 2-0 up, they were down to 10 men. There was a bit of attack come down his side, but not too much, and he was able to kind of play himself in pretty calmly. Overall, then, from the 70 odd minutes that you were able to see, you're such a good boy going to see your mum instead. I'm very impressed with that. Kind of who, I found that giving man of the match in that game was the hardest for a long, long time. But who kind of stood out for you?
I think a bit of an unsung hero was Kulusevski, and in his play, I thought he was brilliant. But I do agree, like Sarr was unbelievable. I think that cross was just sensational. Brennan Johnson had one of his best games. He's starting to look a lot more confident, showing his much smartness in the game. Even when he was on the left, he was probably one of the few players in that early part of the game who were trying to do things. They didn't all come off, but he was taking people on, trying to play people through. I think his final pass from those positions isn't as good actually as when he's out on the wing. He seems to really know what he's doing when he's out there. But those kind of more through balls that he might be able to play for Son, I think maybe he could work a little bit on them. But yeah, across the board, I just thought everyone had a great game. And obviously Vicario had barely anything to do most of the time, but he didn't let us down.
No, he made that very important save that he ended up getting a bash on the head from at the back stick.
Yeah.
And I think that was at 2-0, and it would have. I do, obviously, being a Spurs fan, you always until we get a third goal, I'm always pretty scared. But I think if that had gone in actually at 2-0 down, even though they had 10 men, the Villa Park would have really got up, and he kind of cut that off at the back post. That was impressive.
Yeah, he's very brave. I guess if I had to pick a man of the match, maybe because I think he played the full 90, but maybe Kulusevski just for his industrious, I think that vital press that he did for the Brennan goal. So
he was actually involved. He was involved in all 4 goals. Sorry to interrupt. And I think I said it yesterday. I don't know what you think, but I think he is a classic example of a player who some corner of every team's fan base thinks isn't playing well because maybe he's not scoring as many goals or getting as many assists as they want him to, but he does so much kind of unsung stuff, like you're talking about the press, and that's why Sir Ange will keep picking him.
Yeah, he is. He can be not frustrating to watch, but you almost feel like he's going to get tackled at any minute, and then he somehow manages to retain possession of the ball. So yeah, he's an amazing player, and I think if he can get to the point where he is making the defenders really second guess what he's going to do even more. I kind of miss those goals, the sort of top right hand corner ones that he was
Yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah.
early. And I think Sonny used to do a lot of them from the right as well, but maybe the whole league has just realised that that's what they can do, and they cut those shots off. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where there was there was a lot of people who could have. I think if Salah had played the whole 90, maybe he could
Yeah.
have been man of the match. Romero was brilliant, but he's brilliant most games.
And then how important do you think it is to the way that we play and our ability to play that system to have both Udogi and Porro on the pitch along with Bissouma? Because that was actually, I think, the first time those three have played all together since I think even as far back as that Chelsea game, maybe. And I don't think it's coincidence that we therefore played almost back to that first 10 games level.
Yeah, and I don't. I mean, obviously they're quality players, but in terms of how it's different to when Emerson's in there, I think it's to do with the interplay between
Mm.
those guys on the right. Maybe gives a bit more space for Udogie to carry the ball when he gets the ball, because a lot of the other sides, their defenders or their positional players being over to our right hand side, it just opens up that side of the pitch maybe. But Porro is just a better player than Emerson, and he creates a threat up that right hand side that I don't think Emerson ever will, just because he's really a right back, not rather than anything more progressive. So yeah, it was great to see. Basuma was very good on the ball, taking the ball and also just holding that position. And even when Højbjerg came on, Højbjerg we think is a classic kind of boring number 6, but he was playing a bit more progressively, which I thought was good to see. So
I was
yeah, we
actually
did.
I was going to ask you about Pierre, and I want you to kind of describe to me how you felt in that moment where 3 Aston Villa players converged on him, and there was literally only one defender behind him. I think made a squealing noise just before he did the Cruyff turn. Were you as scared as I was?
I mean, it was quite amazing, really, and he took out like half the team,
He
and
did.
he was, but he was definitely, yeah. I think maybe he said this yesterday. Watching him pass the ball forward was just like, wow, you can't. I mean, I think people are mean on Højbjerg because I think maybe before he felt like the big boss man on the side, and he felt like he had to dictate play, and maybe that made him stay on the ball a little bit too long. But now he is part of a team where he's struggling to get into the starting lineup. He's
Mm.
really got to make a difference when he comes on, and I thought he looked good when he came on. I want to keep him. I imagine he's good to have around as long as he's not stinking the place out and wanting to move. I
Yeah.
think we should keep hold of him.
Well, I actually agree, and I think the same about Emerson Royal as well. But I think it's going to be really
Yeah.
fascinating to see in the summer how ruthless Ange is with players who he clearly deems to not be ideal for his fit. So I agree with exactly what you're saying, because it's the non-stinking the place out, and are they able to do a kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10 at least when they come on from the bench? Whereas, I guess what I'm saying is, do I think we're going to be able to replace Højbjerg to his level for the money we get for him? No, I actually don't.
No. No, especially now. I think will he be a year away in the summer
Yeah, I
from?
think another year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, there's players as well out on loan, like even Jed Spence, where I'm listening to a little snippet of an interview he did with the Athletic, and
Mm.
he's obviously trying to clear his name of having a bad rep, and he's a young player. I was thinking, would he not be a really ideal Porro backup?
Mm.
He's a right back. He's used to running up the wing. He'd be able to interplay. He can break the lines. I would rather see him back at the club challenging Porro for those positions. And when we've got Europa League, and maybe some more cup runs, he'll actually get some game time. So yeah, I think getting these
But what is
the
sorry to interrupt, but
profile of the
what do you
players right.
think? What do you think the reason is then that Ange was so quick to get him out on loan then? Because for me, I agree in that it seems like he has the attributes, But there must have been something similar to Ndombele in that first couple of months of preseason where he was like, okay, I can't trust this guy.
Maybe just because it wasn't so much you couldn't trust him. And again, I'm guessing here, but when you've got Emerson there and you've got Porro, he might have seen it being way more beneficial for Jed Spence
Sure,
to go out
sure.
on loan, and he was just third in line. But as Spence gets older and stronger and starts to fit more of the profile that we need in the club, maybe he can be the long-term replacement for Emerson. But again, Emerson seems like a good vibe to be around, and he's
Such
a
a
good
vibe.
backup, and he doesn't
Such a
mind being
vibe.
a backup.
No, exactly. And also he can back up for the centre half position as well, I think. I
Yeah,
mean, the other thing worth probably mentioning, because I was thinking about it while you were talking about Pierre, is it'll be interesting to see how Lucas Bergvall does when he comes in pre-season, because I mean, he's only 18, so we shouldn't expect too much, but if he is as promising as he seems to be from, what I've seen clip wise and from the way international journalists are talking about him, then maybe he is a natural replacement for Højbjerg, and then we get the 20 odd million for him and move on. I don't know.
yeah, that might be I suppose it really depends on whether the people upstairs feel like we need the money, or whether actually having him around would be good for the younger players' development. But yeah, he's not gonna hit the ground running necessarily. He's probably gonna need 6 months to a year to
Yeah.
settle. So it could be, it could be the ideal sort of baton passing, but I imagine Daniel Levy will want the 20 million if we can get it. But
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, so just before we go, Fulham away this weekend. How are you feeling about it?
I'm gutted I haven't got a ticket. It's my favourite away day. Obviously, with it being in London, but that lovely walk, yeah, you
Mm.
can do from Parsons Green, or from Putney, just down the river. It's a great old club, great atmosphere. Um, yeah, so I think we'll do them, but they'll obviously give us a game. Marcus Silva's a great
He
manager.
is, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. Um, if if Fulham try and sit off us or try and counter us. And it's a smaller pitch again. I wonder if that suits us. But I was at the game in the League Cup earlier in the season, and they looked dangerous to me. But we weren't quite there. And I think Lo Celso started that game, was looking okay, and I think he had to come off.
Yeah.
Dane Scarlett came on in that game. I remember it, but that was a painful day for us, because I don't think we deserved to lose, and then we were out the cup straight away. So yeah, I'm confident we'll win though. I think we've got more quality than them, and I think that the players in the team will be looking to just build on that Villa game and push on through to the end of the season.
Yeah, they've had some good results at home actually, and but I am also confident for some reason. I remember I once went to a Fulham Spurs FA Cup game at the Cottage, and I think we beat them 5-0. I think it was like Robbie Keane. I think maybe Robbie Keane or Jermaine Defoe scored a hat trick. So I've got good memories there. But for some reason, yeah, I just feel confident. I really rate Marco Silva as well, but I just feel like I don't know. I think it's starting to come together. I hope, someone will meme
This
this up
could
when we lose 3-0, but I think it's starting to come together. That's what I think. So I've
this
got a
could
good
be
feeling
the
about
Adama Traore narrative, full circle. Your favorite.
Oh God. He already had his script moment against us when he scored last season, didn't he, for Wolves against us? And
Yeah.
usually he's a pretty terrible finisher, but it was an unbelievable finish. But yeah, it could well be the Adama Traore derby, I guess. Let's see what happens. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. Please do go and check out Joe. He's with the traveling band or his solo project Later Youth. All the information will be in the description box. Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for
We'll
having
have
me.
you on again soon. And guys, please do press that like button and the subscribe button. And if you want to become a Spurred On Pro or Patreon member, all the details in the description box. Only £1 a month. But most importantly, with a big game of the weekend, come on, you Spurs.